Xavier, thank you. We are also learning tonight James Tallarico is set to deliver a primary victory speech right here in Austin. His opponent in that race, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, conceded today. Political experts are now combing through the results to see the breakdown of support in this primary. So joining us this afternoon is Eric McDaniel. He's a professor of government at the University of Texas at Austin. He also helps lead the Politics of Race and Ethnicity lab there. Professor, welcome and thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's first talk about that projected winner of the Democratic Senate primary. As you've been looking at the results, what is the coalition of voters that James Tallarico was able to bring together?
I think he was able to really bring together younger voters and the more progressive wing. I think he also was able to bring in those who are a little bit more moderate in tone, while Jasmine Crockett represents those who kind of want to take the fight to President Trump and to the Republicans. He's seen as somebody who might be able to moderate the conversation and maybe turn down the heat of the dialogue.
Yeah, you're leading right into my next question about where did Jasmine Crockett earn most of her support in this primary, and what will you be watching next to see about her group of voters?
The main concern, I think, with her group of voters is that, I think she resonated well with Black voters, also with voters who really are extremely frustrated with the current politics. And the concern I have is, will they then form a coalition with Tallarico? So one of the major problems the Democratic Party has had historically is its inability to form strong coalitions, especially at the state level. And so the failures the party has faced over the past 3 decades related to state level elections is really because of the inability to form strong coalitions. And this is an opportunity to do it, to influence things not just within the Senate race, but also down ballot.
I want to talk now about the Republican primary. So either John Cornyn or Ken Paxton could soon get President Trump's endorsement. That eluded both of them leading up to the first election. Of course, they're headed to that primary runoff now. But how key do you think that endorsement could be for one of these men?
I think it's very important. Now, for some Republicans who may be frustrated with Trump, it could be seen as problematic. But given the nature of support that the president has seen in the state of Texas, I think it will be a boost for whatever candidate. So whatever voters they may lose, I think they will gain much more than what they will lose.
And finally, Professor, I wanted to ask you too about turnout overall. So we saw Democrats for the first time in several mini elections past that they outvoted Republicans in this primary. What do you make of that and how that perhaps reflects on what could happen in November?
I think there's a sense of efficacy, a sense that they can actually win, that they feel that their voice will be heard. That when you constantly lose elections, a lot of times you just feel like, what's the point? But now there's some sense of excitement, a sense of efficacy that they can make the change that they want to see, that they can eventually win and change the course of the nation as well as the state.
And that is Professor Eric McDaniel from UT Austin. Professor, thanks again for talking to us today. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.